In this video, I'm going to share with you how to conduct a mid-year strategic review that actually gets results. My name is Dave McKeown and these are my findings from the outfield. Hey everybody, Dave McKeown from Outfield Leadership here. Thanks so much for stopping by. I've got a really simple process for you that you can use to conduct your mid-year strategic review. This is a process that I have used with my clients over and over again throughout the years. If this is the first time on my YouTube channel, would love for you just to hit that subscribe and like button to make sure you get notified whenever new videos come out. So this process is super simple, and whether you're going to do it in person or virtually, I know that you'll get a lot out of it. In order for us to get stuck in, however, I'm going to need you to follow me downstairs. So here's the problem with strategic planning, or certainly the problem that most teams run into at this stage in the year. There are essentially three elements to a strategic plan. There's the plan itself, what you're going to do. There are the people that are involved in implementing it, and there are the processes that you use to review your progress to achieve your plan. Most organizations are pretty good, okay, at building a strategic plan. You know, you've got smart people, you know and understand your business, you get them in a room, and you can come up with some goals and strategic initiatives to get there. Some organizations are good at getting the right people in the right seats to ensure that you're implementing the plan accordingly. But where almost all teams fall down is the process in terms of reviewing that plan, ensuring that you're making the progress that you need and want, and that you're collectively holding each other accountable to what you're ultimately agreeing to do. So what happens is when we get to this point in the year, the halfway point, we've essentially abandoned any form of review process as the day-to-day busyness takes over. And so you get into a room and you kind of think, what was it that we agreed we were going to do at the beginning of the year? I can't quite remember. Let's dust it off and take a look at it. And you end up with this hodgepodge of initiatives that are going well, some that have been abandoned, new things that you've thrown into the mix. And it's kind of hard to start from that perspective. And so what I want to do is give you 7 really good questions that you can ask your team at this point in the year to ensure that you're back on track to achieve the things that you want to achieve by the end of the year. Before I give you those 7 questions, however, I just want to set the mindset shift or the perspective that you want to ensure that you and your team are adopting before you come into your mid-year strategic plan. There are 2 major mindset shifts that you want to make sure everybody on your team has made when they come into the room, whether that's in person or virtually, to discuss your mid-year strategic plan. The first one is just to ensure the appropriate horizon of focus. You do not want to be in the weeds on all of this. You don't want to be talking about the day-to-day or the week-to-week. A lot of teams have a tendency to focus on the near immediate problems that they're dealing with. Use your weekly reviews for that, use your monthly reviews for that, use your daily reviews for that, but you've got to elevate your focus to the 20,000 foot level. Specifically, we want to think about what do we need to achieve between now and the end of the year, the next 6 months. In fact, this is probably the last opportunity that you'll have as a team to come together with an exclusive focus on this year. When you come to do your next quarterly review at the end of Q3, you'll start to think about the year ahead and maybe the next 2, 3, or 4 years ahead. And so this really is your last best opportunity to reset the decks and realign yourself around what you must achieve this year. So that's mindset shift number 1. Ensure that you're operating at a 20,000 foot level, what we need to achieve by the end of the year. The second key mindset shift that you need to make when you come into the room is to ensure that everybody leaves their functional hat at the door, so that they're not here to defend or go to bat for their department, their division, or their team. Quite the opposite, in fact, they're here to go to bat for the organization. Your leadership team should have their collective hands on the steering wheel of the business and where you're going. And when we come in with an emphasized perspective on our function and what we need, you end up in disagreements, discussions, debate on a functional level rather than a collective, holistic business perspective. So that's really the second mindset shift that you want to ensure your team has, that they're leaving their functional hat on the door and they're here to really discuss how to lead this business forward in the back half of this year. Once you've made those mindset shifts, here's 7 really, really great questions to ask you and your team. Some of them are backward facing and some of them are forward facing, all with the end goal of realigning your team around the work that needs to get done for the back half of the year. So here's the first question. Taking a look at the last 6 months, what's working well? What has been a success for you? What's been a knockout success? What has been a marginal success? What's working well? And that could be a specific strategic initiative that you've put in place, might be a new product or service launch, might be a new process that you've put in place, maybe you've revamped a team, the makeup of that team, you've brought some personnel in there, made some changes. Just take a look at what's working really well, because let's face it, as an organization, we want to amplify those things that are going well and then tweak and fix those things that aren't working so well. So as you look at those things that are working well, begin to ask yourselves, should we double down on this? Is there a learning from this that we can spread across the organization? How do we ensure that we're maximizing that success? So question number 1 in your mid-year strategic review is what's working well. I'm sure you can guess what the second question is. What's not working well? What are we failing on? What's been a complete abject failure? What has been a marginal failure? We haven't quite got where we wanted to. And again, begin to think across your business. So what products and services just aren't launching? What marketing campaigns flubbed? What hires did you make that just didn't work out? What processes are just weighing you down? As you look across your business, what just didn't work for you in the last 6 months that really needs to be retooled? Third question to ask yourself is, what did you abandon? Like any individual making a set of New Year's resolutions at the beginning of the year, most of our strategic plans end up with 1 or 2 initiatives or imperatives that we just abandon. Either we didn't get time to do it, it just was too difficult, we were too over ambitious whenever we set it down there, we just couldn't get somebody to take accountability over it. So as you look at that initial plan that you set at the beginning of the year, what have you abandoned? What have you just not followed through on? And then do a bit of a deep dive on the reasons why you abandoned that. What was it? Was it just that it's not a high enough priority? Was it that you just didn't have the right person leading it? Was it that you just soon realized that it wasn't a good imperative? Ensure that as a team you're doing collective learning around what you abandoned. I've seen too often teams, they just kind of they want to put those things under the rug because they feel like it's a collective failure, and so it's easier to just move past those things that you've abandoned. But like anybody, it's okay to say, hey, we had great intentions there, but we just didn't follow through on it, so long as you do the learning to understand why. So what did you abandon over the last 6 months? The next question to ask yourself and your team is, what did you get distracted by this year? And that can be externally or it could be internally. It can be changes in your marketplace, in the industry, in the economy in general. And we know this year there was just such a market shift for everybody in the first half of this year. Now is just a really good time for you as a team to get together and evaluate the changes that you made. Were they successful or not? What lessons did you learn? What would you do differently if you were in that situation again? I think it's important at this point in the year, although we're clearly moving into a time of rebuilding, to just take some time to postmortem your organization and your team's response to what happened in the first 6 months of this year. But also to focus on what changed or what distracted you internally. You know, as humans, we have a tendency to want to pursue new and exciting things. Was there a shift of priorities caused not by the external environment, but internally? And again, to do a postmortem, did you pursue the right things? What did you learn? What would you do differently if the same distraction came in? So ensure that you spend time analyzing what distracted you both externally and internally this year. The next 3 questions are all forward-facing. They're all focused on what you want to accomplish by the end of the year. In fact, the first question is, what must we achieve by the end of the year? As you begin to realign your team, you want to align that focus on the 3 to 5 really specific, clear things that you must achieve by the end of this year in order to say that this year was a relative success. So what are those things that you must achieve by the end of this year, whether that's a particular product rollout, whether it's a strategic initiative, whether it's a tech or a process shift or change, maybe it's a new set of values you want to institute in the organization, maybe it's an entirely different strategic direction. What must you achieve by the end of the year? Penultimate question then is, what would be nice to achieve by the end of the year? And it's important to differentiate or to separate those two things out. What must we achieve and what would be nice to achieve? Because that's your brownie points, right? If you get all of the stuff in your must-have column done, then you can begin to focus on the things that would be nice to have. What you want to ensure you don't do is spread yourself so thinly over both of them that you don't deliver on any of them. So that's why there's a higher strategic importance on those things that you must achieve, but it's good also to track those things that would be nice to achieve. And then the final question is, what would be foolish for us to attempt during the rest of this year? What would be foolish of us to attempt during the back half of this year? And this is really just to wall off that strategic focus. As people, we have a tendency to overcommit. And particularly when we get into a room of people and we like to bounce ideas off each other, we can often walk out of that room with a list of strategic initiatives or imperatives that's just, quite frankly, unreasonable or unlikely that we're going to achieve. And so it's important to literally draw attention to, put it up on a flip chart, those things that seem exciting, seem alluring, seem like they might be easy, but that you know in your heart of hearts would be foolish to attempt to do for the rest of this year. And so taken collectively, those final 3 questions really should set up your discussion as a senior leadership team around the specific initiatives and imperatives that you're going to focus on for the rest of the year. And out the back of that, you should hopefully have a robust set of goals around those initiatives, a degree of an implementation plan, and then also some accountability and communication plans for how you pass that out to the rest of the organization. I hope that was helpful, useful, and valuable for you. 7 questions to help you have a really robust mid-year strategic review. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you again soon for my findings from the outfield.